2021 has been a bumpy ride, to say the least. We've seen a tango dance of safe measures easing and tightening across the globe, and the increasing number of COVID variants only added to an already geopolitically unstable world economy. In this video, we'll attempt to sift through the noise, consider some macro trends of the next decade, discuss how predictions almost always fail us, and how that should affect our investment mindset. If this interests you, stick around. Before we jump into the details, do note that I am not a licensed financial advisor, and none of this is financial advice. We're simply presenting our research and opinions for fun and educational purposes. First, I'd like to disclose the obvious. I don't have any more information than any political science researcher, socio-economist, or financial institution, and I wasn't born with the gift of fortune-telling. Most predictions made by finance experts have not aged well.
Okay, Peter writes, should I be worried about Bear Stearns in terms of liquidity and get my money out of there? No, no, no.
Okay, just so you get a sense of what's causing the agony by this point, I know you've been talking about it. It's financials led by Bear Stearns after what essentially is a bailout from the Fed. Bear Stearns shares are down 90% this morning.
So one might ask, why bother making any? For me, apart from the embarrassment of being dead wrong about the future, considering macro trends helps to shape my investment mindset by grounding it with the reality I understand. Predictions, on the other hand, are a different beast. In his 2001 lecture at the Terry College of Business at the University of Georgia, Warren Buffett described how everybody at the turn of the 20th century agreed that the automotive industry was going to replace the horse and carriage. The internal combustion engine was the disruptive technology of its time. So the macro trend was obvious. But of the 2,000-odd automotive companies, very few people were able to predict the handful that would emerge successful. Instead of trying to predict the winners, Buffett would have gone short on horses, since they were going to lose no matter what happens to automotive companies. Similarly, very few of us would have been able to pick the winners of the internet boom back in the early 2000s. We should therefore maintain a healthy dose of skepticism if anybody claims that such and such company is going to be the winner of its industry. Making predictions, therefore, should be tempered with assumptions and caveats so that they teach us something rather than sensationalize or mislead. What I find more helpful is to have a macro analysis of the economy to get a starting point for what companies to research. For example, I try to look for companies that are positioned well to benefit from new industries that are disrupting the incumbent ones. With that being said, let's look at some potential macro trends to give us clues on what type of companies to look out for. The first macro trend for the next decade is remote working. Working from anywhere is going to become more relevant as the culture of clocking in a 9-to-6 workday at the office is fundamentally shaken since the pandemic, and will continue to shift towards hybrid working. No, not this kind of hybrid. I mean a culture of working remotely part-time or full-time. In the next decade, I think many jobs will require a mix of office or co-working spaces as well as a home office setup for long-term remote work. This macro trend will benefit a few types of businesses: computer peripherals, communication software, and semiconductors. I reckon that when current supply chain issues get ironed out over the next few years, these three types of businesses have lots of potential to grow. The second macro trend is the clean energy revolution. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that climate change has real devastating effects on the planet and requires a global effort to slow down. Many governments will continue to invest heavily into renewable energy across the next decade, which will spur the growth of green technologies, such as more efficient solar panels, wind turbines, vertical farming, electric vehicles, and many more new technologies. Therefore, companies that are exposed to renewable energy, battery technologies, and the EV revolution have potential to grow along with this trend. Ironically, some of the dirtiest businesses such as mining will also benefit due to the increased demand in precious metals and other commodities that are used to create all of this infrastructure. The third macro trend is the fintech space. According to Allied Market Research, as reported by Bloomberg, the total addressable market for the fintech lending market is estimated to grow at 27.4% compound annual growth rate to reach $4.9 trillion by 2030. That's trillion with 12 zeros. In general, digital banking is going to continue to steal market share from retail banking. Due to the critical mass and network effect that it has already reached, Bitcoin will gain popularity as a reserve asset. Other blockchains will begin to see some real-world use cases and adoption beyond a white paper and a meme coin. Consumers will be spoiled for choice in terms of payment processors, digital banks, brokerages, and other services. Concepts from cryptocurrencies DeFi space will creep into CeFi as banks and other financial institutions try to stay relevant in the midst of disruption. Now, since you have made it this far, I have a bonus macro trend for you to look into. It goes by many names, but for convenience, I call it the Web 3.0 movement. This is closely tied to a few upcoming industries, such as 5G, the Internet of Things, and the Metaverse. We will be covering how to think about investing into Web 3.0 in future videos, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Which macro trends are most interesting to you, and how do you factor them into your investments? Let us know in the comments below. If you're interested to join us on this financial journey, subscribe to our channel to get notified every time we release a new video. Gently tap the thumbs up button for the almighty YouTube algorithm, and if you find this helpful, share this with your friends and family. We will see you in the next video.